All right. Good evening. Madam City Clerk, did you have an announcement you needed to make tonight?
Not tonight.
Okay. So we will call to order the special meeting workshop of the City of Grand Terrace for August 6th, 2020. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. Ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Allen.
Present.
Councilmember Hesse.
Here.
Councilmember Robles. Mayor Pro Tem Wilson.
I am here.
Mayor McNichol.
Present.
Madam Mayor, you have a quorum. Thank you.
The first item on our agenda is for public comment, and this is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on the items on the agenda only. A special meeting of City Council pursuant to California law, City Council will only be taking public comment on items listed on the agenda. Do we have any request to speak at this time?
No, Madam.
Thank you. So we'll move into new business, which is a City Council workshop to discuss and provide direction regarding the City Council annual protocols and procedures, versus code of conduct and legislative program policy.
Okay.
Mr. City Manager, do you want to start us off?
Sure. And actually, this meeting starts off tonight with this is a workshop to talk about the City Council's workshop to discuss the provide direction regarding City Council member protocols and procedures, personnel code of conduct, and legislative program policy. As the mayors and the council aware, several months ago, there was an agenda item on your future agenda items that was approved by the council to establish a subcommittee to look at the council's policies and procedures. That assignment was given to Councilperson Robles, and this is tonight to discuss the information that she's gone over and wanted to bring back to the council. And so the city attorney and I will assist Councilperson Robles in the presentation. Councilperson Robles.
Well, this is kind of a Jonathan task for one person, and I didn't want to be where I'm prescribing to you the code of conduct. So what we have here is a hybrid of numerous cities' code of conduct, including our own, and I didn't get into that is repetitive on some agenda and order of business because I wanted us to look at that. I gave you some examples of minutes and agenda items from other cities. The League of Cities several years ago and the League of City County Conference about 2 years ago attended some workshops, and the discussion was about the public is busy, they have commitments, they want to come to a council meeting and be able to participate, or they want to be able to watch it on TV. And so what the movement at that time was that you move city council reports and comments at the end of the meeting. And I noticed there was more, but it was, we're not doing what most cities around us are doing, City Council, City Riverside, Highland. We all pretty much follow into the process. And then I was reading and I was able to source them over the years. Westminster City Council, has some big fights over doing a code of ethics code. And some of the stuff that I follow on my research, a lot of cities are moving to the code of conduct to council meetings and conflicts in city council meetings. And then there's one from Hayward that I found interesting because how we moved to they call it referral, put them on the agenda. And it kind of got into a conflict about one council member was doing a whole bunch, and the city manager got upset and said she was going to limit 5 a year. And the council person said, well, no, I have a constitutional right to speech, I was elected, that kind of thing. So my goal with this, having this was for us to have some parameters of conduct. And yeah, a lot of it's repetitive from our code of ethics, from, and that kind of thing. But coming in I see it as a handbook and orientation and a reference tool. So even though it's repetitive, it's all right because we have something to refer to as we go through.
We did, are we gonna go through what we have currently and we step through it, or?
Yeah, I'm not done. So, exactly what I was just gonna say right now, was that we're gonna go through this, using the table of contents, and, we found an area that, there was a lot of discussion, that we would just move it aside and come back to it at another iteration. And I guess you're gonna guide us through.
Yeah, no problem. Adrian and I will walk through this section by section. And so part of the process is to go through our existing policy procedures and go through those step by step. And we can we'll go by the headings, and we'll look at that. And then we'll go through that and you'll see if you have any questions or concerns about this, and Councilperson Rose can tell you what she found in her research to see if you want to enhance the existing policy that we have. If we have continued discussion on an item, we're going to be noting it down on the little flip sheet cartoon over there. And so if it becomes something that we really want to revisit later on, we can certainly get back and do that. So Adrian and I will tag team this, and we'll go through this. We'll start off on packet page.
No, we from 8.
Page 8.
Unpacking this just.
There's another folder.
I can start.
Okay, great.
So the first section is meetings. This goes over the types of meetings that city councils are allowed to have. So regular meetings, adjournment meetings, special meetings. In my discussion with Councilmember Robles, one of the concerns I raised, or observations I had, is this is already set forth in state law. So one concern or observation is, do we need to restate what state law provides? On the one hand, it's duplicative and it's really not necessary. On the other hand, it provides information. Even if it is duplicative, it provides the council information. So many of the issues that we'll be discussing tonight, for example, one of the things that is in the sample document is teleconferencing. Being able to teleconference to meetings. That's a process that's outlined in the Brown Act.
Does it make sense for the items that describe our meetings that are set forth from state law, that it reference the state law that it comes from? So that it's known that it's not just us making it up, but
Now, if we wanted to keep it in, I think that's an excellent idea.
so that it's a nice place because it's all together in a reference, but it seems like it would need the reference back to the state law.
Okay. Good point. So is the consensus from the council we want to keep, even though it's maybe duplicative of state law, you think it's helpful to keep it in our policy?
I didn't know before I was researching it was historic.
I heard her say yes.
Okay. Okay, so keep it in,
Any objections to keeping it in?
creativity.
I think there's one packet left, maybe note that too.
So keep it in, but add government to the section of the section of state law.
Well, yeah, I like that it's in one place to refer to, but
Right.
because then you'd have to scramble around and figure out where the state actually has it.
Okay.
So it's either reference where you can find it on the state website or leave it in and reference that it's state code. Those would be
Okay.
those would be what I would suggest.
All right. Okay. The section 2, beginning on package page 9, is the order of business. And this is what I think Councilmember Robles was referencing a few minutes ago, is what order of items do we want to go through in the agenda? She is suggesting that other cities put the public comment period, if I heard you correctly, Councilmember Robles, towards the end of the meeting.
City council reports and, actually, city council comments.
Okay.
And how they, city council reports are, if I'm sent to a conference at the city expense, then the law, state law says I gotta give a report
That is
the
correct.
next meeting. So that's different from city council comments. So the city report would have to be in the beginning, city council report, but then city, comments would be at the end.
Right. So some cities, one of my other cities, they actually put a line item on their agenda saying reports regarding travel or something to that effect. So it's specifically called out for that purpose. If that's something the council would be interested in having. It would be
It's,
separate from public comment or council comments.
well, I'd say one or the other. I always thought the comments had to do with the report.
And it could be. And many cities also have what we have. And they combine basically. It's any comments they have as well as the report.
I like the idea, report on what, I believe the cities, the school district, they do a formal report on it, comments on it.
Just comment.
What would the comments be referred for?
Comment could be, I witnessed this issue, can staff look into it? Or, I think this is something the city should be looking into at some point. It's not a future agenda item, but it's just something.
Well, except that gets us into why we changed now to the
That's
future
right.
agenda.
So your council comments would be just general reporting out. But so you would, so what would happen here, we would have an item that says committee and commission reports from the council.
Sure.
And then we'd have council comments. And then so you'd add that to the process. So if there aren't any committee or commission reports, you just go over that, if they're done, and you go to the council comments. Right now, I believe the council is providing their committee reports during their normal council comments.
That's what I thought.
So it's really,
It's a matter of do we want to clarify it any further or leave it broad up.
Well, Riverside shows it as a hybrid, 3 reports, conferences, seminars, and meetings attended. Announcements of upcoming events. But I think we just need to comment about, so we know that, so we're legally bound.
So more of a description like.
Yeah. On certain types of things that we're legally bound.
so that's a modification to the existing policy. That's not a modification to the council agenda layout.
Well, it would be both.
Well,
Well,
I'd like to put it at the end, most cities are moving it to the end of the meeting.
Why is it at the end?
Because they feel that the business at hand is more important than having that. People come to a meeting, there's going to be dinner, they have to get, kids situated, and so they want to get to the meat of the meeting.
I've been to other council meetings and legislative meetings that actually ran that way, and I think it's the attendees that I spoke with preferred it. But then again,
Okay, can we go back and clarify first? Are we gonna start with changing the descriptions and to make sure that we're all clear on what the report is?
Right.
And then talk about where to put it on the agenda?
Yeah, okay, so let's go through the substance. So one option is to break it down. I'll give you one breakdown. Is to put under concluding business, the topic concluding business, and do meetings attended at the expense of the city. regional and local representation, request for future agenda items, and council member comments, and city manager comments. So it's broken down.
Oh, put them all in, okay.
Oh, so you're saying there's two separate things, there's a council report and a council comment?
Correct.
Okay, I don't support that idea. I don't know how everyone else feels, but that's my position. I would like it to be reporting out and maybe giving you that option for upcoming events, but not two separate things.
Yeah, and see, I'm particularly not interested in meeting, listening to Omnitrans put out a contract for batteries.
No, and I understand that, but let's talk about first what
I'm
the
not
substance of
speaking.
it is.
So I'd like to see that dialogue at the end of the meeting because, you know, public's there waiting to get their item heard.
And I'm not having that discussion right now. I'm saying, what do we want our reports to be? Do you want two separate items? Or do you want them combined into one? And then let's have a discussion about where it goes.
I think it's clear to have two separate items because someone's not gonna travel at the city expense every month.
And they can talk about upcoming events if they want to. But what I see happens a lot of times during just a regular council comments is they end up responding to public comment, which we're told we're not supposed to do. And so to me, to have those two separate ones means if I get real hot because somebody said something that I want to agree with or I want to disagree with, I have the temptation of making that my council comments. And so that's why I'm saying I think it makes more sense if it's any reports for community events you've attended, committee meetings that you've gone to, or upcoming events, and really get into the practice of not responding to public comments. Councilman?
Should it be report over time?
I'm not saying where it is, I'm just saying
Yeah, okay.
that's just mine, but I'm saying you have one thing and it's a council report and it's a true council report. It's not just on comments because we have the opportunity to bring forward items from the future agenda and other process. So it doesn't even, we don't even need to be talking about it necessarily in there.
When it's at the end of the meeting, there's no risk of
What's the real point of these kinds of presentations by the council members? If we're not going to take any real questions from the public, then what difference does it make? It sounds like we're basically reading the stuff into the record.
Or
Or
required by
reading
law.
it, yeah, so if we're reading into the record, put it back in.
And I'm asking, do you want two separate or do you want just the
I just
reports?
say one period
Just the
because
reports.
that's when his stuff. So it'd be confident.
And I'm fine with moving it to the end. I really am.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, are we saying two separate times to speak, or are we just putting it all together in one? One.
One would be more simple. But complicated.
When we do it for one, I like to see comments that we do this thing.
Okay, and so can we do it before city manager comments
So just,
yeah, because he goes on and on.
He's got pictures on his comments, we know, so.
Okay, so we'll better define what that is and we'll move it right before the city manager comments, is that?
So what I heard was that we will modify the policy to say that we're going to have those comments toward the end, but then we're also going to modify the policy to state that when you travel at the city's expense, however you want to do that, or when you're representing the city for a committee or an event somewhere, that you must provide an update at the next meeting.
so include that in the description. Okay, so we're gonna keep the status quo in one section, define it, and put it at the end of the meeting before city council.
We're not going to do it by law, because that means that it's just,
But that,
it's already obligated by law, why do we have to make a change? It's just a reference.
it's a threat.
But yeah, it's just a description of a reminder.
So we're in section 2, right, Adrian?
Yes. The request on page 10, request for future agenda items. Is the council happy with the process? Do they want to make modifications to the process?
I'm happy.
What would be a different way
Oh,
to do it?
treatment, I can, as emotions.
What would be
Oh,
a-
it's a topic, yeah, okay.
Is there an alternate way to do it?
Oh, the request for future agenda items. You know what might be interesting is if there's some way when we have future agenda items to also have a list of pending agenda items that are coming back.
Yes. I think we talked about that.
And then-
So that we know how much we're loading the staff up.
Exactly, and then, because, and then we're using our priorities workshop. And then, because I felt like, I'm bringing up something and we just had the priorities workshop. Because I don't want to limit anybody, I just want to, again, some drivers, let's try to stick to.
Yeah, I like the process so far. I mean, it's kind of drawn out, but that's okay because we shouldn't be in that urgent of a hurry to build up a list of things for the staff to do because we already have a lot.
But I only see one physical thing. That is, yes, you can request it what you want. But it actually goes on a future agenda. It drops into a hole called, what are our priorities?
Exactly.
So I'm not exactly sure how that fits together and we decide, when the proper time is. I've seen it go on for a long period of time. And it's not saying that it's not accounted for. What I'm saying is that if it becomes something and we all vote for it, why wouldn't it ordinarily go on the next circumstance unless there's something really catastrophic?
Well, and then maybe that's part of the discussion about when we'll come back.
Yeah, maybe, I was thinking if we could expand when we're, voting on it, if we could have an intermediate step with, is it on our priorities list already? Or is it somewhere else on your work plan? And if they say yes, then, move forward.
Yeah, and that's a really good analogy in terms of when an item comes, as you know, there's the initial component where the item is referenced by the sponsor, the councilman. Then it comes back for a discussion. And then whether we give a direction, then it comes back in a policy. And that's your question in terms of, well, when is it coming back? And so, as was mentioned earlier, we have a priority list of top priority, high priority, and priority. And so when we bring the item back to you guys, I guess when you give us the direction initially, the question becomes, where does that go in terms of the priority? It becomes a priority, but it doesn't become the priority unless it's time sensitive. The top priority unless it's time sensitive.
So could that be part of the discussion when it comes back just for, so it's initially on there as do we even want to have a discussion about having it come back? It comes back for us to determine whether it's going to come back with a staff report. At that time, does it make sense to bring up the priority list and say,
It does, because one of the things you always ask yourself so you establish this priority the council gave you. And then when you add another priority, what can't you get done because this item has been added? Or is this item more important than some of the other things that you have? And so remember, but one of the things that drives our priorities are either funding or sponsor, an outside sponsor who's paying for the item. So that jumps through because it's ready to move forward. So I think that's a very important discussion to have at the time. That is, what's the expectation of the council and what's the capacity of the staff to be able to deliver on the expectation.
But it seems like we should be able to handle it earlier, when a council person is going to add this on the agenda, and then the question is it on our priority list already? Then we don't need to add it to the agenda. You shouldn't have to do a staff report because it's still loading you up. so you have to do a staff report, so it's still, so we know it's on our priorities list, or you can say it's part of our circulation plan, or, you know,
Right.
then we go, okay, it's covered.
So one of the things that we did this past year, we did our priority workshop. We looked at all of the future agenda item requests that we had, and we reconciled that, and we moved those over to, and the council decided whether those items were a top, high, or just a priority. So that's one way to reconcile it, but I think the discussion about timing, at the point we're having this, I think is extremely important.
Well, how about if I'm putting in a request to have something on the consideration for the future agenda items, and you know that it's already part of an element of something that's already on the priority list, that instead of it even going on the agenda, there's a discussion that says, hey, you know, maybe you didn't realize this is already part of what we're going to be coming back to. And so that it doesn't have to be on there for consideration.
Absolutely, because if you're talking about, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, when it comes to emergency items, like for example, you know, we had some priorities, and then all of a sudden, we got pooped on by COVID, right? In that emergency declaration, I think it would be appropriate then to stipulate that what our previous priorities were are going to now have to be subject to it. I think at that point, we all understand it. And then we're going, okay, well then let's add one more strike to each one of those. And see if any of those things are going to affect quality of life.
Maybe our mid-year, you know, is when we're looking at our mid-year budget, we look at our also our priorities, so we're always in alignment with our finances.
That would be helpful to, at the mid-year, you can look at your priorities, look at your future agenda items and say, okay, let's reconcile this. You know, maybe something on that list that we didn't catch is extremely important, but one of the things that we try to monitor in terms of the time sensitivity of those items. But I think one of the important points you guys have made tonight is there are times where there's a recommendation for a future agenda item that can be normally handled through an administrative normal process. I'll give you an example. If you put on your priority to look at a three-way stop location, you don't have to do that. You can ask the city manager, and it's a very simple process. We can look at the traffic collision data, and we can see if there have been some issues there. We can do an engineer's warrant, and that will determine whether it requires that. It doesn't have to go through that process. So one of the things that's happening here is that we may be thinking that the only way to discuss an item is through the future agenda, and it's not. You can talk to me at any point in time, and if it's a normal administrative process, I'll tell you how that happens. But if it's something that requires a considerable count of action by staff, that's not our normal process, then we would put it on the future agenda.
Because like it says, more than 1 hour time, so it's.
It sounds like kind of a scorecard. At the time, it's actually read in as an item. At that point, the city manager would automatically go, well, that's what I've administered. We agree as the administrator. So, in the game, and you can go forward without any of that wonder.
So if you wanted to come forward as a request for a future agenda item, and then the city manager at that time says it's for those right up instead of dealing with it before it even comes to the.
I think you can, by the nature of the animal, you can determine whether it's going to be something included in something else.
We know where we are right now in that process, in the initial phase. It's just the council person saying, this is what I'd like to see. Now, if I'm invited to engage in that process to say, this can be handled in this manner, and versus having come back to the council with an item, then I purposely don't engage because, the process is he or she's only going to be stating what they want, and the council decides whether it's going to come back as an agenda item, future agenda item.
might suggest that you go ahead and engage, all right? Because, sometimes somebody might not know that.
Sure.
All right, and whatever you make, your assumptions may be, they may not react correctly.
Okay.
So I would suggest engaging.
Yeah, I think if you provide information to them that addresses their concern, I think that's consistent with the process.
And the
Because they can
council,
still request it, that be on the agenda or not.
that the council person just has a concern, and they just want it, addressed. How it's done, I think, is not as important as is it addressed.
You're absolutely right, though, when you say, because here's what I have thought for a long time is that the only way that we can communicate is something like through these, or give some action statement to a future agenda item in place. And so,
But what if a resident came to the counter and said, I'm seeing a lot of accidents or near accidents at this intersection, what can be done about it? It wouldn't come as a future agenda item, the staff would go ahead and use their process.
but that, we have a thought, we instituted a few months ago, we voted on a way to put future agenda items on here.
The things that would take longer than an hour,
Right.
that weren't part of regular staff process.
Yeah, I think, and that's the confusion I think that people have in terms of, I don't want to do anything wrong, so I'm going to go through this process, versus there's a standard administrative process. We have daily activities that we do, and doing a warrant for this, or a traffic sign for this, or just something that we already have in the process, you can ask, versus, because there's some items that are actually on the priorities workshop. That was a priorities list that also landed on the future agenda, because it was a phase of that. So you wanted to have a discussion about it instead of understanding that the larger item encompasses that. But it might be what Mayor Pro Tem is talking about, the timing. If you're not seeing the things you want and you're questioning it, so you want to know what time is this going to happen. So if we could have that discussion too, then that's.
And that's very helpful when you give us that, and then I can see, there. So I'm going like this, and then you go, okay.
Well, I might interject with the safety net is one. Right, you have a part that you said it's in the budget, or it says this is gonna be extra cash.
Right.
I have to take it to council, so we don't have to worry about that aspect, which is the safety net.
Okay, so you're having that discussion. What does it sound like? Are we changing that provision, or are we clarifying that provision, or what are we doing with it? What did you hear?
Well, what I heard was that when these items go to the council as a future agenda item, then I'm going to be able to say that can be handled in this process. Now the question becomes, am I, when the request comes in to the city clerk, and I get a copy of it, and I say, oh no, that's not needed, let me go ahead and call the council.
And I would like you to make that call to me.
Me too.
If it's something that I've suggested and it's already part of something, and I somehow missed that, I would like that call, and it doesn't need to go on the agenda as far as I'm concerned. So I like that.
We don't really do this just to be heard or get our name.
No, I do it for her.
No, okay, that's
So I'm hearing, maintain the status quo
Yeah.
with respect to the policy, just implement it with your involvement program.
As necessary.
And there's nothing to say that you may disagree with this city manager and still want to put it on, that's your call.
Exactly.
So if he's just providing information to you, that you make that decision.
Is that right?
The next section that I've heard from Councilor Rule, this is on page 11, and that's the minutes. It is the way the minutes are prepared. Yeah, I'm sure about that.
Yeah, so. The minutes are getting quite long, and then I look at all the other cities, there's supposed to be just, and isn't there a city clerk guideline on what goes in the minutes? Like, there's some things that, should it just be action items only?
Yeah, the minutes are prepared as an action. The only thing that I really get into detail on is council comments.
Yeah.
But I'm just, so presents, and then this is what was, it's just, I think the way that the program is set up with the boxes, it makes it seem thicker than it actually is as far as the language that's put into the minutes. You think they're too wordy?
Well, yeah, and I thought, you know, and I know that, we all have a city council section of our own, that maybe we might, you know, post reports there that are deeper. Because I remember reading something recently and it was like, these are action items only, and if people wanna, you know, hear more of the debate, you know, they can click on the demand video kind of thing.
Right.
But to keep the minutes, you know, where, you know, and I noticed that it's just, you know, really just, you know, the action item and everything. And then too, like, sometimes in our comments, we kind of, you know, if we say something and then we say, you know, it was, like in our comments, maybe some of the things we say to each other better not on there.
Yeah, I tried to bullet point it more so now, like you attended this,
Yeah,
this, you know,
yeah.
just keeping it short and sweet.
I like that you included presentation slides that the staff members present. Because I think that there's a different way that it's presented than how it is in the council packet. And so if somebody watched the meeting and they saw a chart that they really liked and they want to go back and find that, I think that's a really nice way to handle it. Now, whether it's part of the packet or whether you make it its own separate thing that you can click on for the presentation slides, you know, that might be something else too. But I think making those available is very important.
Currently, in the full packet on the web, when you click on that, I instead of having the agenda with it, I just have the minutes and then the presentations are behind that. That gives them an opportunity to just look through all of those. Because automatically the system makes it the full packet agenda with minutes, so I just swapped that out. That just would seem a little logical for me to be able to get that on there easier that way. And then when you go to the minutes themselves, time stamping it so they can just click and go directly to that item there. And that's where they can identify the PowerPoint at that time. Those PowerPoints provide a lot of data and information too, so that doesn't all have to be basically restated in those minutes, I suppose. So there's two different areas that they can research those.
But can it just be like some hyperlink somewhere else that they can just go on?
I'll need to look into that with the application and see if I can do that, because if I have hyperlink instead of manually uploading those PowerPoints, that would go well.
I like them all.
Oh, no, I mean to keep it, it'll still direct it to that area. It's the way it is.
So we recently, I think it's been maybe a year or so, we moved to have the PowerPoints included with all of the packets at the next meeting, at the minutes, as part of the minutes.
Right. So they're basically, that information has been included as well.
So I think the discussion here was about the detail of the minutes. And you said that the only section that you really elaborate on are council comments.
Correct.
Now, this is for me, I mean, so when I was on the council, I know to get an agenda packet, so I'm seeing, you know, where the PowerPoints are on the video. So just for me, it's just like a lot of scrolling, you know, it's just, and especially when you come and you have a device, and then you come and there's other things, a lot of paper. It just seems like it just be a hyperlink. You know, it's still there.
I like having that for reference.
Yeah, I mean, you can do the minutes and here's a list of the reports, here's the link.
I think it makes it hard for the public to navigate it that way, where they have to go and look at different things.
We're on YouTube.
I'm a little,
Well, the minutes, I guess the procedure for doing the minutes isn't.
yeah, but the procedure of doing the minutes and how they're formatted on
That's a little. So are you comfortable with the way you're going?
No, clearly she's not. She
No, I don't know.
She doesn't want more than probably a page.
No, I just want action items only.
But that's all, they are action items. She has the item and then she has you made the motion, you seconded it.
Yeah.
That's what she has.
Yeah.
But then she has the reports that were given because that adds extra information that the public wouldn't normally be able to access because it's there and gone.
It's not gone, it's still there. It's not gone.
Not if she doesn't include it.
Well, I'm okay with that. I'm good with it.
So we can,
You want to change?
Just skip over it.
I understand the point about the action itself and the idea of hyperlink, if you want to, be I think that's not I think that's a good idea, and I understand also that you might have it all at one time. Technically, you do that hyperlink. It would be just the same
Not
as,
if I don't have an internet connection that I downloaded my packet.
well, I've had a complaint for years that a lot of cities put the stuff in there and says, according to government protocol. And you go, oh, the hell is that? Because you don't know what it is. I mean, you don't follow government code around it all the time. So if you're gonna cite something, then put that information in there for me, rather than.
I really like it.
But realistically, now, that works, because I can have it. So you don't have to have all that food. You just have to go ahead and pop it in the microwave. And it's a, it's a huge, honestly. No, really. I'm actually getting tired of rolling. So, 500 pages.
Well, I like that this packet that we have here allows us to look at a view that gives page by page, but what makes sense is if the agenda has the corresponding page number so that when I look at it in the view and the gallery, I can say, oh, I want page 10 or I want page 110. And I can choose it that way and then I'm not scrolling through it. And so as it is right now, I annotate my own agenda so that I know what page number I need to go to. So that I can look at my gallery view and then look on that page.
so can I bring us back to, I think the item that we're talking about really is whether the minutes are in concise format or whether the comment should be as concise to or left alone. The process of how she posts it on the agenda, we can work with you on that. I mean, we can do multiple ways. We could do straight minutes and then hyperlink this versus separate. You know, we can always find ways to get you there. But I mean, I think the policy is: are you guys okay with the current process, or does she need to consolidate the comments of the council into a little? I'm not sure how a little blurb versus that's what she does. All the details. So that's really, I think, the issue at hand. For this.
I think you have to link the whole thing.
So create separate report documents for each of the council members' comments and then I have to look at that.
Is that what I'm going to work?
In the stump for each one of 5 people. And you could go in there and say, do that anytime you want.
Okay, so what does that mean to you, Deborah, in terms of doing the minutes? Would that mean you'd have to, under council comments, you would want her to hyperlink every council person's comments? You're still gonna do all the detail, then at the end, you're gonna have to.
It would just be done elsewhere and then hyperlinked.
Yeah, all I want is my packet. I don't want all that stuff. I had to read it before, and I had to scroll through all the stuff again, and it's just, you know,
Okay. So is I mean, here's the thing, because if our goal here is to streamline the process for you when you get your agenda, that's different than when someone prints out the document, they print out the document, the minutes and they get a bunch of hyperlinks that doesn't tell me. But I understand, now that we're all doing it electronically, yeah, it becomes an issue. So we can hyperlink some of those things, that'd be great. But in terms of what your policies would say about, so she's consolidating the action items only. The question becomes, what would you like her to do with the council comments?
Time for the end. Agenda for the minutes, I
You guys want to take some action on that, or?
I don't know what that means. So I'm a member of the public looking at the minutes and it just says, reports are hyperlinked.
Are they that stupid? I mean, you know,
If they're looking at it, it's up to you.
exactly.
Maybe they're not though.
You know, like government code, you know, now people hyperlink it, and I can go in there and it takes me to that.
And I have a lot of people that they don't know how to go and use them. And so I wouldn't call them stupid, I would just call them not wanting to spend it.
Okay, so,
And so all I'm saying is.
so we're trying to do general plans for the general body of us and for the community.
Yeah.
You know, so when we're gonna start trying to make it for every single person out there tailored, then we're straying
Oh,
way
no,
off.
I'm not trying to tailor it at all. I'm trying to say make it easy for them to find the information. That's what I'm saying. And I don't want to be accused of trying to hide it.
Now, well, it's there, it's a hyperlink. It's not hidden, comes right up.
I think what, it's saying, some lowest, but when I get the agenda, I'll say that I put it on that PDF format. And then you can go through it, and I have to go through almost 100, 200 pages of the first one before I get to the other one. And then when I mess up, and I'm like, what was I, and then I'm sitting there trying to get it bigger to see where I'm at. So I think if we just, like she's saying, like, well, this, I'm gonna hyperlink the whole prior agendas and all that, so hey, I wanna get this, I'm just gonna hyperlink. So whoever sends it to us, we have a hyperlink, hey, I wanna go back and refer to that, but instead of putting it together on two agendas, because it's a lot of stuff on the computer. If you're not looking on here and you know what page, because I'll get on here while I'm reading the agenda, and I'll write down packet page 3 or 20 or something, so I can just go right to that instead of going, what was that thing, and I'm going like this and going crazy and stuff. So I think you just, like a bulletin, just put it in one section and you get it, instead of it all being together with one big package.
So
Consolidates the package.
maybe make a council packet for everybody that wants it without anything from the prior meeting. And then you have the agenda that's important.
We have 3 of us saying,
That's what I'm saying. So for the council that wants it with just the hyperlinks, you send it to them with just the hyperlinks. And you make that available that way.
okay, so 3 of us are saying we want one process, and you're saying, oh no, we want it this other process.
I'm saying I like to have it all there, and I think that it's good to have it available and not have to be a hyperlink. And I don't know what differences it makes if there's two different ways that she has to create it all anyway. Whether she hyperlinks it or not.
And I think we're giving her more work. Let's have a vote, agree against you or whatever, this is how we're gonna do this, we're here tonight, and discuss how we're gonna do it.
Okay, then I'll just go ahead and request the information that I don't have.
Can we make it, if it's something that has happened in the past, can it be just hyperlinked that we refer to in the work? And if it's something that's coming up forward, then that can maybe be presented the way it is currently. Because, for example, we go through this whole menage of subcommittee, right? And yes, we voted at that time, go ahead and look at it from, see what it was. No, but can I just look at that on a computer screen? In the areas that I'm not sure about, that have already been created by going, back in the day, they used to do it planning. I would turn around and go, oh, okay, we said that like 5 months ago, that's right. And I look back there was, I didn't have that hyper. It said that it was done, then I look back there.
What you guys are requesting is no different. If I get on the city's website and go to the minute track and I go to an item, it'll give me the staff report, it'll give me the links to the attachments. And so that's that's certainly doable. And I keep coming back to this, which I'm trying to comprehend in terms of the policy that we have regarding the minutes. So do you understand what you're being asked to do for the minutes?
Yes,
Okay, and so what is it your understanding?
minutes that are being, are action minutes with respect to council comments. That information needs to be hyperlinked. And then they would just click on that and that will take the public somewhere else that will show the more detailed information from the reports and the information for the council comments.
There's a handout here, I guess, from City of Highland. Minutes. If you go to page 5, so I want to make sure I understand. So on page 5, they have council member comments, and then they have this quick blurb about what each person said. Are we saying that we're not going to have that at all?
That's what I'm hearing.
And I have concerns about the transparency of that. Not to say that you can't, also that, but I do think that since the minutes are an official document, that it should at least have some statement, even if it's brief. We should at least have some statement.
So it's like a court document.
Exactly.
So the bottom line is though that what used to happen before the digital age was if you really wanted to know what happened at the council meeting, you pulled the tape.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, these have now taken the place of the tape. Okay? But does it have to be combined into one document, or can you, if you want that greater detail, it's already in the record? See, what we seem to get stuck in is that you've got to do a lot of editing to make it to fit into something. Whereas what we're seeing in these minutes is it says they took an action. This guy said second, this guy said first, bang, it's done, right?
But don't we already have it that way?
Right?
For the items, yes.
Yeah.
But then if there was any discussion in that situation, ordinarily you pull the tape.
Correct.
In this case, you still have to have it in the record. It just doesn't have to be very
But
detailed.
that's how she does it. She has the item and who made the motion and what the vote was for each of the items that took place at the prior meeting, or at the meeting.
And there's no further discussions, that's what
I-
somebody said.
No, I think that the discussion comes in on the council reports. And that's all of it.
Occasionally, depending on the circumstances, whether it's maybe controversial, there might be some discussion, I have added a little summary of the discussion. Especially if I think when you've had, a half an hour to an hour's worth of discussion, I'll try to put like a little paragraph in there, just to generalize what that discussion was about. Not very often, but occasionally.
And I'm comfortable with what I see on that and what you're saying. I'm just saying, all the PowerPoint and all that other stuff doesn't need to be part of the agenda. It's cumbersome, and it interferes with, how Mr. Hussey says, there's issues, still that, when we come and there's different formats. If I get knocked off on my Acrobat and I go to the city's website, then there's a whole different kind of thing. It's not,
So you just want the PowerPoints hyperlinked?
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
attached to the actual physical agenda.
how you want to say, your minutes, that's your discretion as far as what our comments are. It isn't on the other side.
And it's not difficult for us to, for example, she can always just PDF a document, the entire document, and have it sitting over in the corner. Somebody wants to see a copy of that, they can do that. Versus, I think we heard it loud and clear. You're saying because you're now doing this stuff digitally, this becomes cumbersome with all the information. But if someone wants to get it completely, old school is a PDF now, and you put it aside. But we can certainly, I think we've got direction that you want to hyperlink. And then Adrian's comments, I guess we have to address in terms of, she may have to still put something down under council comment councilperson said this, and then the hybrid, versus just council comments hybrid.
Right, and
Maybe
as
like
far
a
as the
time.
PowerPoint is concerned, I just want it to be made available. It
Right.
doesn't have, I don't think I was saying I needed that as part of my packet. I was saying I think, I like that it's available, it should be available. That's all I said at the very beginning.
To convert that would be just a couple minutes.
When you talk about the PowerPoint,
Yeah.
you come out from individual, previous meetings.
Right, I like them to be available, and so it was requested that they be part of the minutes because we were never seeing them and they were never being made available. As long as they're available, like right next to the agenda packet, as part of the minute packet, or however you want to do it on the website, that's fine, just as long as somebody can go and refer back to it. And an indicator that they can find it there.
We can be able to move the regular minutes, the other minute back to be renamed PowerPoint.
And so we can work on that process in terms of how we get your packets. I think the issue at hand is
What goes into the document. So are we comfortable with status quo?
No, we didn't say status quo. We're saying we're gonna be hyperlinks, that's not the same as what we're doing right now.
I think if you had a copy of the minutes and you could actually show them physically.
And so, do you have the one that was handed out?
No, like, you're talking about the city of Grand Terrace minutes.
Oh. You want to pull something up?
I can go look at a set.
well, I think what Adrian said earlier, the only reservation that he had was that there had to be something, a line or something that said, councilperson Robles delivered her comments, and then there's a hyperlink there, is that what you guys wanted? It just can't be,
You don't get into a level of detail, but you say,
Yeah.
Councilmember Rowland spoke on.
Reported on League of Citizens.
Right,
right, and then Deborah will hyperlink for the rest of it. I think that's what,
right. And that's what the
So
staff
there's
will
two
do.
separate ones, hyperlink for reports and hyperlink for the staff PowerPoints and all that other stuff.
right, yes. And so the staff configuration of your agenda items is not the subject matter of this. The subject matter is the consolidation of the minutes so that they aren't detailed in the city council comments, but they are hyperlinked and to the appropriate satisfaction that we meet all the laws and requirements as the city attorney has said. And we can, that's,
So there's a short statement, and then the hyperlink to that. Correct.
and Councilperson Robles referenced that you guys actually all have an individual website on our webpage. And if you wanted to put any reports that you have from different committees, we can certainly put those on your webpage.
We can make it our own bulletin board.
Yes. Okay, I think we got some direction on that one.
And so like public hearings, that's all required by law, so you can't mess with that.
So are we done with section 2?
I think we are. I have one, but it's more my thing is Councilmember Rowland with my view. So this is a discussion, the city manager and city clerk and I have had, and that's regarding ordinances and the second meeting. So as you know, when we have our first meeting, we have a staff report, sometimes a public hearing, and we do the first meeting and then we just have an ordinance. We have to bring it back for a second meeting. 99% of the time, the report is, nothing's changed, do the second reading. Some cities, what they do is instead of making it a separate action item, they put it on consent.
And I think it belongs like this.
And they put it on consent, when the mayor calls for the vote, I read the title before you vote, because we still have to read it. You still have to read it. But it saves the time of having to do a staff report.
Say contained in the consent calendar is a second reading of the ordinance.
Correct. So that way, we don't have, it saves a little bit of time during the meeting. It doesn't prevent the council from pulling the agenda item and having a full discussion about it. It doesn't prevent the public from asking the council to pull the item. So that would be one recommendation I have. The council's agreement.
I think that's a better way to go.
Yeah, we've discussed it, couldn't we?
Yes.
And my concern has always been, I want to make sure the council knows. And so that's great. If the policy is that goes on the, that's great for me.
Well, there's a little bit of visibility into it too, because the title has to be correct, so.
Correct.
So it's just catching me to make sure I let you do that.
So with that, I think we've done this too. We'll take one last one.
So under this is the presiding officers, the responsibilities are, section 3. There are any concerns with 1, 2, 3, 4, 3.3, 4, 5. Were there anything that members might have on any of those items? Okay, rules of decorum. I got off easy enough, did you?
So we do have provisions here regarding rules and decorum of, for council member, for employees, for the public. Councilor Lewis, if you want to discuss this in any way. Any concerns that the council has addressed? There is a section here on packet page 16, which I'll just point out, is section 4.5, personal interest. No council member is prevented from voting by legal conflict of interest shall remain their conflict dais or council dais. I mean, that's a state law. So just pointing that out.
Well, you know, one of the things that I've seen in multiple different agencies is that there's a little card that the council members can fill out if they have an item that they think they're going to be conflicted out of. And that's a good reminder. And that's turned over to the chairperson. And the chairperson says that this person might be voting on a particular item.
Is that the difference between abstaining and recusing?
Question on item number 3. Council member wants recognition not to interrupt while speaking was called over by the mayor. That's in direct conflict with Roberts because it begs the idea of filibuster. So it seems to me that if the mayor, or let's call it the chair, if the chair is going to maintain order, then it's still got to be the responsibility of the chair. They can recognize or they can ask if that person will defer or yield the floor, but bottom line is that it's still the chair that is the person that makes the determination of whether or not we're on course.
What section were you referencing, sir?
4.2.3.
13?
Yeah, it's on
Package 44.
page 14.
Oh, 14.
It says that, well, it should say the chair, but unless the point of order is raised by another council member or speaker to yield, that they can be called upon by the mayor.
Mhm.
And by me, we're going to explain that Robert's rules in the discussion in our meeting, and Ken Henderson, the acting city manager, said he would be Rosenberg, so we adopted Rosenberg.
And Rosenberg's either way.
But I brought up that I'm not comfortable with Rosenberg. Either I gotta have better training on Rosenberg, or maybe we need to go back to Roberts and do training, but we gotta pick one. It seems like there's, like Rosenberg's, like a little bit too loosey kind of thing.
And Rosenberg's is the one we adopted, I think, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be
Easy.
less onerous.
Yeah. But it's a little more scary.
Less English.
It opens the door a little more vagueness, as I read it. It's supposed to be simple, simpler.
I think his idea was he was trying to simplify it so that people weren't afraid to engage. So, Mayor Pro Tem, a council member once recognized shall not be interrupted while speaking unless called to order by the mayor, I should say the chair. Unless a point of order is raised by another council member or the speaker chooses to yield questions from another council member. And so what you're saying is you believe that's in conflict because only the chair can interrupt? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So another council member can't say, excuse me, but,
The chair opens the floor, grants the floor to one person at a time, and recognizes the speaker, and from that point forward, it's the chair's call. Because if you don't, then you've got each council person running the meeting.
and they do that the same way,
Yeah, it gets too caught up.
Or point of order.
Right.
They can always ask.
So a council member could say to the chair, point of order,
That is possible to do, but in that point of order, it really becomes not an explanation from anything else, but you just call to the mayor, point of order.
Right.
So,
so maybe that needs to be clarified now. That they could bring up a point of order or request a point of order.
right.
The way I read it, it doesn't say that. I could write it a little bit differently, just to make it more clear.
So unless a point of order is raised by another council member to the meeting chair,
Right.
just for clarification.
I can understand, I can see that could be confusing because if the council member is not to be interrupted, how is somebody going to have a question that they can use without interrupting?
Well, it becomes a filibuster.
So,
So you're going to clarify, city attorney, that the point of order is the other council member is requesting it to calling a point of order from the mayor.
To the chair.
To the
To
chair.
the chair.
Yeah, I think that needs to be changed to chair.
And what's the point of order?
Depends on what point of order they're asking for.
And it's up then to the chair to bring it back to the order of the agenda.
Because the mayor pro tem might start going off on a tangent on something that's not related to the meeting, and
Right.
that's a time to call a point of order when we're off topic.
But you're not stating that point of order, mayor, so-and-so is doing X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
You're simply stating point of order, have the mayor bring the person back to or the chairperson bring the person back.
Well, you know what I need help with is like when we're doing the question part. And so, but you know, sometimes some people ask questions and they're giving actually direction to staff, testimony. So, but then sometimes it goes, they'll get back to the council and we're not really deliberating. So it'd be like, you know, if we could, you know, okay, so with this question part, you know, and then it's because they'll bring back to the council, and then it seems like sometimes we just go, okay, you know.
What he said.
Yeah.
Well, and what really is supposed to happen when it comes back is there's supposed to be a motion and a second before any discussion takes place.
Right.
And in the history of many bodies, that nobody wants to make a motion first, they want to start having discussion. And really, you're supposed to be discussing whatever motion is made. Whether it's a motion to deny, a motion to adopt, what the staff recommendation is, and then there's supposed to be time for deliberation after that motion.
Yeah, so then, like, that's why I thought, okay, Mr. Rosenberg, maybe like have a little run through.
Well, and that's all rules of order say, you're supposed to have a motion and a second before you have
But we're
discussion.
not, you know, we're not doing that.
And we're not doing that.
So what I was thinking, well, maybe the way to cure it for me is like, to say, well, I'm thinking a second for purposes of discussion.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and absolutely. And I think what I've heard in the past from other councils is nobody wants to make a motion because maybe politically they don't know if they have the votes to do that, which really you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to have discussion unless you have a motion on the floor to actually discuss. There's nothing at that point to discuss.
if you were to say, when it comes that time, I'm going to bring it back to the council for a motion and discussion, then you might get a motion and discussion, but you always say you already voted for discussion.
And consideration of a motion.
Yeah, so just
Yeah.
reverse it to any might
We
work.
need cues.
Okay, well,
I need
I am happy to say I'm bringing it back for our deliberation. Now, remember, we start with a motion. Does anyone want to make a motion?
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah, I need a cue, because I get, you know,
And so what would you be motioning for the discussion?
yeah.
Well,
Looking for the
if staff have recommendation on an item,
Right.
we've asked the question, we've had public comment, and then it comes back after public comment, there needs to be a motion. Whether it's a motion to approve staff recommendation, whether it's a motion to not move forward with it, whether it's a motion to totally have something different than what
Right.
staff is recommending.
Wait,
But
wait,
there needs to be a motion and a second, and then you have something to discuss. Other than that, you don't.
right, well, so
And
that's-
we always do discussion first. and then-
because people want to have their questions answered before they make a motion on an item.
And the
That's what
time,
the confusion.
and the time for questions
Is before the public comment.
is after staff report. When I say, are there any questions?
Well, okay,
To which
Right.
Councilmember Robles has been saying, sometimes there's questions, sometimes people testify, and sometimes people give direction to staff during the
Yeah.
time when they're supposed to be asking questions. And I have been trying to gently nudge and say, and so your question is? Oh, yeah, let me make this into a question. So I think that's where we can be tighter. Yeah. I really think as a body, we can be tighter.
And then too, Councilman, America Tom Wilson, for example, there's some things that, that, you know, they really don't want a motion to table, motion to limit debate, you know,
Number 6.
to close nominations or to reject consideration. All these things we don't really do.
okay.
Yeah, we can, but I just really don't quite, know how to.
And so you and I had a discussion about tabling. And in there, if you don't say table until a specific date, it doesn't come back until somebody actually, in our case, they'd have to put it on future agenda items to say, shall we consider this item that we tabled, however long ago. So it kind of goes away unless you have a motion to table to a certain date or to continue. And to continue usually means it comes back in the next meeting.
So then, I know there's a councilman, from Ontario, Walker. So we'd be at a meeting, there was a lot of stuff that, it would be like, I just moved the item. But I know when we had another council, person who's not here, she wanted to go through the whole thing again, and it was like, some things don't require, going through the whole meeting again. So I just thought,
No, there's supposed to be a motion before any discussion happens. And then you have something to discuss. Otherwise, you're kind of dancing around and trying to figure out what people are.
So will we, at the next council meeting, will we hear that thing?
Yes,
Will we?
absolutely,
All right,
absolutely.
looking forward to it.
Me too.
So can we just kind of walk through that process one time?
You want me to walk through that?
Yes.
All right, so are there any questions of staff at this time?
So when we do that, staff is provided their staff report. Council is asking questions about the staff report or about the agenda items. It doesn't have to be limited to the staff report. It could be anything about the item.
But it should be related to it.
It's, of course, it has to be related to it. It's not at all related.
Because sometimes it does take off into a similar theme, but not the actual agenda.
Right.
So see, I thought it was, are there questions of staff being, is there something that I didn't know, that you didn't make clear on the staff report?
Exactly.
Right.
That's another question of staff.
But that was the extent of it, in terms of, is there anything you can I didn't clarify this for me, or I didn't understand this on the staff report, not something,
Or would we be able to do this instead?
okay, is that,
Yeah.
okay,
It's anything about the agenda item.
okay.
That's before you.
So yeah, it's a clarification of what they said, but it could be, well, you said these are our choices. But is this a choice as well?
Right.
Interesting.
Thank you.
One thing that brought up an interesting issue too. I've noticed that we kind of slur over the idea of inviting the applicant to basically follow our conversations with the
Staff.
Yeah, when we open up to the public, the first person that should be there should be the applicant.
Well, I think they should be part of the staff report too, depending. I mean, if there's a public hearing, there's a place for them to be. I mean, it is in there, but if it's just a regular agenda item, I think that's where we kind of get out of pocket with that.
I think if we're talking a case,
Yeah.
and the case gets brought up, and then it becomes a situation where we've gone ahead and talked over things because of the staff, then you go to open up a public hearing and invite the applicant to speak because you want a chance the applicant to be able to rebut.
Right, and a lot of times during the public hearings that we've had, there really hasn't been an applicant, there wasn't staff.
That's true. That's okay.
No, I mean, and that, I think that's why we don't always hear from them.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'll make a point on that. I think we need two different scripts.
Probably.
Because we have a script that we use all the time for everything, so
It is.
it's like a tax roll thing. There
Exactly.
really isn't an applicant.
No.
And so that process doesn't really
It
fit.
doesn't.
That fits, what's that?
For public hearing.
When you
For that
only,
type of public hearing.
when you only have a staff report and not an
Right.
actual applicant.
That works when, like, in a few weeks, we're gonna be having an appeal from a planning commission. In that case, you're gonna have an applicant, and that's when that works fine. But I do think we need two different scripts for two different issues.
I would agree, because otherwise it's too confusing. We're not following the script because we can't follow it.
Right.
I know Richard Adams kind of acted like a parliamentarian, and I thought that was the role of the city attorney. But our city attorney says we have to request for him to be our parliamentarian, or else he won't be our parliamentarian. Because we kind of need someone that's a disinterested party to us, kind of, and is a, you know, kind of a legal person says, oh no, you know, when you're gonna say lay on the table, Councilman, what is your intent? This is what you know, okay, well then you have to put a, you know, a date. And that kind of assist to us. Because otherwise, you know, there's no check and balance on you too.
Or Adrian, oh no, Adrian's always giving me the eye when I say something. Make sure that I don't say something incorrect, and then he'll go, yeah. Or, and then he'll
Yeah.
clarify.
But maybe you could just formally say to him, you know, if you guys agree that he'd be our parliamentarian.
I think you're yes.
Well, then if he does, then there's no problem asking him formally then.
Is that what you need a formal request?
Is
that what-
Councilmember Lewis, I mean, technically the mayor runs the meeting,
Right,
and I'm there for advice, obviously.
yeah.
And if I see a major problem, I will jump in. I don't know what more that would be.
Well, that, we could look to you and, you know, and, or, you know, and say, well, I'm struggling here, you know, this is what I want to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if that's what you meant, yeah, more than that. I already know. But, yeah.
Matter of fact, Rosenberg says that you're obligated to refer to the council for any law.
Right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have to keep us that up.
So you can't just use it.
Right.
So did we finish that flow?
Okay, so
So we have the questions.
we have the questions. They ask any questions they have about the agenda item. Goes back to the mayor opens up public comment. And one point that I'll make before we get to public comment is to not opine on the agenda item, not give opinions as to how you're going to vote on the agenda item, because that means that you haven't heard from the public at that point, and you've already made a decision.
And you don't have to say why you're asking the question either.
Correct.
You don't have to say what your concern is and why you're asking the question, but just, this is my question.
Correct. And that's especially important when it comes to the public hearing for like an appeal, because that's where you can get challenged, because in that case, you're acting as a quasi-judicial body. So, you know, I'll advise you, whenever we have this, we haven't had too many of them, but I'll always advise you just to keep on track. But okay, you go ahead, public comment, public speaks, they're done. After that, goes back to the mayor. And at that point, what the mayor's saying is, we're gonna have a motion right out of the gate, ideally. And then a
Right, so if we
second,
come back for deliberation,
Right.
say, remember, we need to start with a motion.
Yes. and then there's opportunity for discussion. And now this is where it gets a little tricky, is whether you already asked your question and can you ask more. Some cities are very by the book and say, you've already had your chance to ask questions, now it's solely deliberation. Others will want clarification on something that's already been discussed.
So you make, so a motion's made.
Yeah.
Uh, and second, a motion to discuss, a motion to approve, a motion to deny.
Whatever the motion is.
Well, and I would say if you're making a motion to approve or deny, then you have more of a discussion because you're discussing around whatever that is. And to your point about can you ask questions? All right, so what if during public comment something was raised that now we have a question about? Because we had the staff report, somebody during the public session brought up something that is, okay, can we explore that a little bit more? And to me, it's useful to be able to have staff explore whatever that issue was that was brought up.
And I would usually do that during public comment. So if somebody's speaking,
Okay,
say, city manager, can you clarify that point or can you add to that?
okay, so before public comment's over to say,
Yes.
can staff clarify any of these points that are different? Before it comes back for
Yes,
deliberation.
because technically deliberation is your time to make that decision. In theory.
So I always understood it to be that the item, staff does a presentation, the council, the mayor asks, or the chairperson asks the members, are there any questions you have of staff regarding the presentation? Then the item goes, this is no, yes or no, but it's not anything else other than the staff's presentation. Then it goes to, because the thought process is I want to go to the public, have the public get input. Then now I've got the staff input and the public input, then it comes back to the council, and the council is able to ask questions about whatever. Then after those questions are asked about what they've heard, someone makes a motion.
Right,
So
but it becomes more discussion at that point when it comes back. And so what you're saying, I think, is very important, that, yeah, you don't necessarily want to ask if there's anything that you can change before you hear from the public. But when it comes back for motion, you could say, I move staff recommendation with these changes. And that could be my motion, based on what I just heard.
But I've seen meetings where a person wants to ask a question, and the chairperson says, no, this is not the time for that. Let's go to the public, and then we'll come back to that. And so I'm a little,
In our meetings, when we have staff, after staff report and it's time for questions, people have been designed time to ask questions.
no, I'm not, I'm just saying that I have experienced that where I worked in multiple states. So what happens is the staff has a presentation, the councilperson wants to ask a question, and they say, well, it's not time for that.
You know what, in public hearings, generally the questions come after the public having changes. Or can be, depending. I've seen it done that way, I've seen it all several times.
We don't run into this very often, but when there's a heated discussion or something that's controversial, so one of us may want to speak more about it. But I read where one of the things that the sheriff can do is that we all have one pass, and then if there's going to be a second pass, we all have a second pass. And we have to honor that, we can't be like, well, I didn't finish yet, or I want to speak first, it has to be, we all get turned, we all get, yeah.
All right, so, staff finishes their staff report. It's time for questions. Are we allowing for anything other than just clarifications of the staff report?
In my opinion, yes. I think everything on the agenda item. Because, and give you an example, Bell before the scandal, the way they did this, they can give you a staff report telling you half the story and not the full story. And under the theory of you're only limited to what's presented to you, you're not able to ask what's the full story. So I think so long as it's on the agenda and it's within the realm of the agenda item, you can ask the question for that.
So then it goes out to public comment. And before it comes back for deliberation, there's an opportunity for staff to answer any questions that were raised by the public.
Or during the public comment, during the speaker.
Right.
Your time.
What I am concerned about, I like that the answers come out. But what I'm concerned about is if there's somebody up asking questions, does it become a back and forth between them and staff? And so I would like clarification on, does the person finish their comments and all their questions, and then they're finished, and then staff gets the answer?
Right, I think that's the best way to do it. Because you're in control, they're done speaking, and you can direct questions.
I mean, I certainly want the answers to come out,
Right.
but I don't want it to become a back and forth because it's not that, it's not a conversation about that.
You say that the member of the public.
Yeah.
And I think your rules indicate that when the person's talking, they're talking to the
Yeah.
council. And no, you don't have them ask a question, stop, have a question, stop, because the fairness becomes eight. Well,
Right, and so that's my clarification, that they finish their comments and questions, and then after that,
So in
there's an
between
opportunity
speaking.
for staff to address the questions.
Right.
Okay, so public comments closed, bring it back to council for deliberation, beginning with a motion. Is there anyone that would like to make a motion on this item? And then if there's not a second, then
That dies for
it dies for lack of a second. And so, but we'll go to Councilmember Robles, and she'll say, I'll second it for
Sure, for discussion.
discussion purpose.
I need cues.
Okay,
but you know, and that sounds better, actually, to be able to, if I were an elected official and I just heard the information, I now ask before I hear what my colleagues are saying, I'm asked to make a motion.
Right.
And then no one seconded it because they weren't wondering what's going on. So I get a second, if I get a second for discussion purposes, that's pretty
right,
good.
because if you vote no, then, that one didn't pass, but you can always have another motion.
Yeah, and then I would like to, if I would like the staff recommendation, so the post recommendation, and say, well, I want to make a second motion, of this recommendation.
Yeah, an alternate, yeah, absolutely.
Because I think this is more fuller discussion.
Well, I think it frames the discussion, and I think that helps to move the meeting along.
So we'll make sure that we get that lined out, if we need to clarify that in the.
Well, then there's a calling for the question too. So if you have a motion and a second and you're having a discussion, any member of the council can at any time say, Chair, I call the question, and then you stop all discussion and you vote on it.
Because Doug and I, are more impatient, we'll say like, all right.
And that's when you can say call the question. So there's a motion and a second out there. But if there's no motion or second, you've got nowhere to go.
That's true.
Which, by the way, can I take us back to the consent calendar for a minute? We pull an item off the consent calendar for discussion. I'm going to ask you to all support that it's the responsibility of the person that pulls it off the consent calendar to then do something.
Yeah.
Either make a motion to approve it, make a motion to deny it, or ask that it come back. But ask, you've taken it off the consent calendar, you got to do something to police
Once
your
you ask the
area.
question and all that stuff, yeah.
So I'm going to ask if I can need your support, that that's what we all agree that we'll do. If we take something off the consent calendar, then we put it away when we're done. Simply.
So, are we still talking about motion?
I think we were pretty much done. Did you have any?
Unrelated,
Okay.
but it's real quick. Right. And it's on back to page 16, item 4.6, limitation of debate. The first sentence says no council member shall be allowed to speak more than once upon any one subject. I
Until.
think it's supposed to be 2 words,
Yeah.
any one. Okay?
Oh,
That's all.
Oh, I was gonna say.
But if we can lay somebody down and stand on, we can speak on.
But only one at a time.
Yeah.
We would agree that we'll have the thing about the other. I know it's a minor procedure, but.
Oh, yeah. Well,
The
what happens is if there's a public hearing
script.
and there's a true applicant, they're already in the
So we
line of
have
succession to speak.
Current-
But a lot of the ones that
current
are
script.
handed to us have been staff that is bringing it forward here. And probably we have a consultant, and they're the ones that have maybe more technical information for our questions to be answered, but they're not necessarily the applicant.
Yeah, internet service.
Right, I mean, so what Adrian was saying was we have a different script from when staff's bringing
Right.
something forward versus when we have a true applicant.
Yeah, if it's a staff representation or if it's a city representation.
So yes, I agree, absolutely. Applicant needs to be
I'll
covered.
work with Deborah on this.
Or maybe even the consultant that is there as the technical expert,
Right.
that they're brought forward instead of just kind of left to the seats, well, if you want, they can come. We make them a little bit more part of it.
Well, in this, one important point that I tell staff, is that when you have a consultant there, and they're being paid to be there, they should be addressing, they're the technical expert.
They should be addressing staff, absolutely. They should be introduced, and they should give the report, actually, is how I would say it. You know, and so the staff member can be the person on the light item, they're introduced by the chair, but then they say, okay, for this item, we went with this consulting company, and so is here from there, so I'd like them to come out and give you the report.
Right? Where were we?
The rest of the council.
5.1?
Anything to address that?
So 5.2, and Councilman Allen pointed out that 5.2, third line from the bottom, it should be spokesperson versus spokesman.
Right, I agree. And also, I think anywhere that it says the mayor, I would say the chair. Because it might be the mayor pro tem. Or it might be, if the mayor and mayor pro tem are gone, it might be whoever the council determines will chair the meeting. So I think it needs to say the chair.
Because there's lots of different stuff.
But yeah, if there are 3 people, but the mayor and mayor pro tem are gone, then one of those 3 gets to run the meeting, and they're the chair.
That's true.
Any comments on section 5? Okay. 6.1? Motions?
Any questions come up with that?
Yeah, I think we talked about that.
Yeah, good stuff.
And so the only time that we're actually having a motion to adjourn is if we're adjourning to another
Specific data.
specific date and time.
Chapter 7. Motion.
You know, I just want to say that I think the discussion that we had earlier regarding the agenda, the item, when we talking about motions and things, that was great discussion, and I want to make sure that we do elaborate on that.
Did we do what?
That we make sure that that's clearly defined with the process.
Okay. That's good.
We're on voting 7.1.
Any issues with voting? Pretty good with that.
I'm okay with it.
Even though it was this guy.
Okay. All right, so,
I need 5 break.
okay. That'll be good. 5 minutes? Great. We've done tonight. We will come back with the completed version of that. We also provided you with a draft document that was, what packet page is that, Adrian?
Packet 47.
Package 47. And so one of the things we'd like you to do is to take that document, flip through it and read it and see if there's anything in that document that you would like to incorporate in our existing document.
Yeah, as long as it's repetitive, but some like ad hoc committee, standing group things, clarifies that for the, for the record. Oh, and there also one thing that two things that I found really that was useful, like when you want to censure someone, the due process and how to do it. We should have that written down so we know. And also about dealing with the conduct of boards and commissions. Those are like, the stuff that isn't repetitive. But the rest is pretty repetitive in what they're at.
What about this legislative?
Yeah, that's what, we already adopted that.
Did we? It says adopted and then there's no date. Starts on page 33.
It's not anything new, it's something that's been around a while, so I don't know about that.
No, this is.
No, I thought we had a legislative policy also, so, packet page 33, so I was kind of surprised that we don't have an adoption to that.
I know.
Well, no, because this is the one from Palo Alto.
On page 33?
Page 33.
It's a
We-
city manager.
we put it in as a draft, in case there's any issues in here that you want to incorporate into our policy.
So let us do this. Let us take the existing legislative policy that we have and let's compare it to this Palo Alto one. And we'll bring back the same, because this is more detailed than what we have. We have sort of a fast track effort to be able to respond to different legislation. And so let Adrian and I do a comparison of the two, and we'll bring it back for a future discussion.
Why don't you guys do that too, and just get rid of the duplication,
Okay.
but also the lead ad hoc standing committees, censure and conduct of boards and commissions.
Okay. Did you catch that, Deborah? Say that again, Councilperson Rubles.
So keep the censure of legislative body members, dealing with,
Board and
boards and commissions. Oh, and then about, the procedure issues, there being annual review of these procedures.
Oh, yeah.
Submitting questions to the council agenda ahead, and then they send everybody a copy. So the council member asks these questions.
It's what we have currently in the policy, but it's not
Not written
detailed,
down.
which basically says that if, was at a point where if a council member submits something on the agenda, then everybody else needs to give it, something like that, to that effect.
Okay, my concern with that is where do we end up with a bad act problem?
Well, Adrian and I will look at that, and
Because to me, if I bring up a question on an agenda item, it seems to me that if it's not addressed in the staff report, that that's an opportunity for staff to then add it to their staff report so that when they do report it, they're giving all that information. But yeah, sure, I want to know what everybody else is asking, absolutely, but I also don't want us to get into a Brown Act situation where somebody might think that we're messing around.
well, and
What if it's from a national laboratory or a medical facility, recognized expert facility? So where would the conflict?
Give it as an argument.
No, if you were distributing, for example, if you had a question, you had some other material, and then you were able to make it available to the public, but as well as, distributing it to everybody. If it's from a national laboratory or a recognized expert, or for that matter, an attorney's opinion.
Yeah, and
Be added to rather than be included in the statute.
well, well, here's the point to that, is that the way the current policy reads is that if a question's asked, and I provide detailed information to the council person, that council person shouldn't have any more information than anybody else. So you might send me 6 questions. If I only answer one of those that provides pertinent information to the staff report, I'm gonna send it out to everybody. I'm not gonna send you these other leading or pointing questions about my position on the item. It's just, I think it's for the staff to be able to make sure that everybody on the council has the same information in the
So
deliberation
it's a
process.
vote and change situation. And you're not gonna do it like the president.
What did he say?
So yeah, you'll make sure that there's a way to give information that's appropriate and then to keep information that you shouldn't be sharing.
Well, yeah, but I'm not gonna share your position on something, but I'm gonna, if you're required, as you said, if it's a technical study or something.
Oh yeah, technical study that's available to public, absolutely.
Can we just deal with the setting a time that our meeting ends?
Well, and that goes, let me rephrase that for you. What it requires is that if there is a council meeting and you're scheduled for, say, 6 to 8 o'clock, and you're not done with your business, the motion is to extend, or you automatically end. And so you meet, in one sense, you are setting a time limit. But I've been in councils where those are repeatedly, there's a motion to extend, and if it's not granted, then the meeting ends.
All right, because I was told the city council conference, that when San Cruz City thing was going on, everybody was having meetings from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, because they didn't have a time that the council meeting ends.
So say it gets to be 10 o'clock and we have another major item to look at. Is it okay for the council to say, I make a motion to continue this item until the next meeting, or, I mean, do we have to have a set time limit in order to do that? Or are we able to look at the time and say, you know what? We're not gonna give this what it needs, and if there's no urgency, let's.
Yeah, well, and the difference there would be, is that if you have a set time,
Yeah.
then everybody knows you have a set time. If you decide that you can't handle it at a certain time, or you're in the middle of a process, then the public going to accuse you of trying to cut off the debate. So by having a set time, that if you have a set time that says 9 o'clock is your end of your meeting, and there's always an ability to make a motion to extend the meeting to finish your business.
So you can say, Mayor, if you need to make an amendments or make a resolution to that effect, because realistically, we're not Los Angeles. And those folks get salaries for doing what they're doing.
And they should stay until 3.
Certainly.
$200.
Okay, could we set the time at limit to 7:30 then? So
I'll say 6:30.
yeah, we should be able to get it done, especially if we're moving our reports to the end.
Pretty much.
Then we get tight with those motions and that discussion and the questions.
So we'll bring that item back as one of the things that we look at.
Can we see if we get better with the questions and the motions and all that, and see if that tightens things up a little bit? because we don't generally have that long of meetings. And if we're putting the second reading on the consent calendar for
Yeah.
things, that changes it as well. Maybe with some meeting, some planning or flow of it. I don't know.
Okay, so we have our marching orders. I guess the question that I would have is, when would the council like to see us return with having a second session of this motion?
Every month.
Okay?
And the please be handled at regular meeting.
It could be.
You have a regular meeting?
Well, yeah, if we're just looking at those certain items and seeing if we want to add them or not.
Unless it goes past 7:30.
That's a good motion. And then we'll have to have a motion to adjourn. To a special meeting first.
Okay, great.
All right, is that it?
That's it.
Anything else? All right. Thank you all for your discussion.
Very helpful.
We'll adjourn to our next regular scheduled meeting on Tuesday, August 11th at 6 p.m.